When you hear about the Arabian Peninsula, what comes to mind? Oil-rich nations, towering skyscrapers, luxury, and wealth. But beneath the surface of this glamorous image lies a country most people rarely think about. A country embroiled in war, chaos, and poverty. Welcome to Yemen, where life is drastically different from its neighbors like Saudi Arabia. Why does a nation so rich in resources struggle to survive? What led to this stark contrast? Today, we'll take a deep dive into Yemen's untold story, a land of forgotten struggles and ongoing hardships. Today, people live in various geographical locations, each region with its unique characteristics and lifestyle due to its geography. So, what comes to mind when you think of the Arabian Peninsula or Arab states? Many of you probably think of Islam, vast oil reserves, or the luxurious lives led by the rich. However, there's a part of the Arabian Peninsula that breaks this stereotype. A country at its southernmost point called Yemen. Unlike its wealthy neighbors, Yemen remains one of the poorest and most troubled countries in the world. The land and people of Yemen. Yemen is located on the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, covering a vast 528,000 square kilometers. Its shape resembles a horizontally wide rectangle with a coastline along the Arabian Sea. Despite its size, Yemen has a population of 33 million people, making it densely populated compared to its land area. Almost the entire population is Muslim, with Arabic being the official language. To the north, it is bordered by Saudi Arabia, to the east by Oman, and to the south and west by the Arabian Sea and the Red Sea, respectively. Yemen's proximity to its wealthy neighbors, especially Saudi Arabia, makes it seem like it should be as prosperous. But the reality is quite the opposite. Yemen has been struggling with economic hardships, political instability, and internal conflicts for decades. In fact, Yemen has been described as a forgotten war zone by many international organizations, a wealthy nation in ruins. Yemen is rich in natural resources, particularly oil. If you squeeze the soil and stones of this land, oil would seemingly flow out. It is an oil-rich country, just like its neighbors, yet it has failed to tap into this potential to achieve prosperity. Decades of mismanagement, corruption, and conflict have prevented Yemen from leveraging its oil reserves, which could have transformed the country into a thriving economy. Beyond oil, Yemen also has an incredible coastline that could attract tourism. Its coastal cities are blessed with natural beauty and historical significance. Yet, due to the ongoing conflicts, tourism has almost entirely disappeared. More than 80% of the population today is in need of humanitarian aid, a sad statistic for a country that should have flourished. A brief history of Yemen's struggles. Historically, Yemen was part of the Ottoman Empire until the 19th century. However, the weakening of the Ottoman Empire allowed other powers, like the British, to intervene. In the mid-1800s, the British reached Yemen, and with their influence, rebellions against the Ottomans began to rise. Yemen eventually broke away from the Ottoman rule. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire post-World War I, Yemen entered a period of political turmoil and internal power struggles, with tribal leaders vying for control. The situation worsened in 2011 during the Arab Spring, when widespread protests led to the collapse of the government, plunging the country into chaos. Today, Yemen remains a nation divided by internal conflicts, with no strong leadership or vision to unify the country. The struggles of modern Yemen. Life in Yemen is vastly different from life in its neighboring countries. The country has been ravaged by war, and its infrastructure is practically non-existent. Cities are filled with rubble, and basic amenities are hard to come by. Most Yemenis live in poverty, with the average income hovering around $100 per month. Inflation is so high that even essential goods are out of reach for many. Traveling to Yemen is an eye-opening experience. The country feels like a place frozen in time, untouched by modern development. Buildings are crumbling, and the streets are littered with garbage. In some areas, people are armed with rifles for self-defense, and kidnappings are frequent. The internal conflicts have made Yemen one of the most dangerous places in the world. Life in Yemen cities. If you manage to enter Yemen through the eastern border with Oman, the first thing you notice is the state of the buildings. They are worn out and dilapidated, a stark contrast to the modern architecture seen in neighboring countries. The roads are dusty and often filled with piles of rubble. Shops are makeshift and poorly stocked. Yet, despite these harsh conditions, the Yemeni people continue to carry on with their lives, albeit under severe hardship. Women in Yemen are fully covered, and their role in society is limited. It is a male-dominated culture where women have little say. Men are the primary breadwinners, often selling spices, textiles, or other goods to make a meager living. The streets are mostly filled with older men. You rarely see young people out in public, a sign of the country's demographic crisis. Corruption and desperation. One of the most significant problems in Yemen is corruption. Every political leader who has come to power has exploited the country's resources for personal gain. Oil, Yemen's most valuable asset, is sold abroad, and the money is often siphoned off to foreign bank accounts. As a result, Yemen imports petrol from countries like Oman, a tragic irony for a country that sits on vast oil reserves.